Okay, let's move to point number 3, make the inflation tax optional. Some of you may recall that during the 2008 presidential election, in particular the presidential debates, the concept or the phrase, the inflation tax, was introduced into the public lexicon. So folks started, I think, to understand a little bit better of how our current monetary system actually imposes a very significant tax on virtually every member of American society. And so what I'd like to suggest is that the use of gold and silver coin could actually provide a means for folks to opt out of this tax that appears in no statute book, is not actually an explicit law imposed upon the American people, but rather is a byproduct of our monetary system. It's a, in quotes, tax that John Maynard Keynes referred to as a confiscatory tax that not one man in a million would be able to detect, because it would just simply be by operation of the monetary system. Now, I think at this point the cat's out of the bag and people are understanding the inflation tax. And so the question is, what can be done to essentially opt out of this tax? First of all, it's important to go back to our statutory framework and see that the Secretary of the Treasury is actually mandated by statute. This is part of his statutory duty, quote, to maintain the equal purchasing power of each kind of U.S. currency. Paper, silver, gold, dollars should all have the same purchasing power in the marketplace, and indeed they did for most of U.S. history. A paper dollar, gold dollar, silver dollar would all buy the same basket of goods in the marketplace. Recently, I understand that in response to a Freedom of Information Act that was directed to the Secretary of the Treasury, specifically asking what the Secretary is doing to meet this statutory obligation of maintaining the equal purchasing power of each kind of U.S. currency, the Treasury Department was essentially stumped. They came up, they said, we can't point to any record or document that would show that we're doing anything to maintain the equal purchasing power. And this is painfully obvious to anybody using U.S. dollars that paper, gold, and silver dollars do not have the same purchasing power in the marketplace. Here's an example of kind of how the system is currently working, or actually how it worked at the time when equal purchasing power was being maintained, and then how that's working today. So here we have a home, and this is an actual home that was purchased in 1957 for 13,500 silver dollars, or which is referred to in statute as lawful money, because notes are typically redeemable by law for lawful money, and this is what it's talking about, gold and silver coin. At the time, in 1957, these 13,500 silver dollars equated to 13,500 note dollars or silver certificates. And either one of those could purchase 37,700 cartons of brown eggs. One of the gentlemen that put this together refers to himself as a professor of economics, because he has identified the brown egg in particular as being one of the best measures of inflation over time. So there you have it, 1957, equal purchasing power. Then we fast forward 25 years later, and we find that there is no, quote, lawful money available at that time. This is during the period between the passage of the Coinage Act of 1965 under the Johnson administration and the reinstatement of gold and silver coin during the minting of gold and silver coin during the Reagan administration, where the U.S. government, so that's a 20-year period, 65 to 85, during which the U.S. government was not minting gold or silver legal tender coin. So that was not available. But a appraisal of the house revealed a value in Federal Reserve note dollars or banknotes, $85,400, which, interestingly, would purchase 37,700 cartons of brown eggs. So there you have the same purchasing power either for the house or the eggs. It's now gone from 13,500 to 85,400. Another 25 years in the future, so this is now 50 years from the actual purchase, and we're going to sell the home, and the house is sold for 13,500 silver dollars, which would buy 37,700 cartons of brown eggs. And that amount at the prevailing rate was $175,000 in 2007. So let's see how this plays out in terms of the inflation tax. So we have our buy in 1957, our sell in 2007. Okay, if you look at cartons of brown eggs, 37,700 would buy and would be adequate compensation for the sale of the home 50 years later in 2007. So in brown eggs, there would be no tax due, because there's no gain. Lawful money, you have a buy and a sell, 13,500, no gain, no tax due. But you look at the paper note, and you have an initial value of 13,500, which through the monetary system is transformed into 175,000. So you have $161,500 Federal Reserve note gain, and which at the prevailing rate would be a $55,000 tax due. So there you have actually an after-tax loss in lawful money of $4,269, or 11,922 cartons of brown eggs. In order to opt out of the inflation tax, one could simply have acquired and sold the home in legal tender of the United States, silver or gold dollars. And if that were the basis, the tax basis for the investment in that appreciable asset, there would have been no gain.